Hello, this is episode 19 of the Movie Burner podcast, the weekly podcast from Movie Burner Entertainment, where we discuss the latest entertainment news, reviews, and share our views. So what's up first, John?
Well, first, Stephen, we're going to be discussing the recent speculation from, I believe, The Hollywood Reporter that Paddington director Paul King is in talks with Warner Bros. Over a new Willy Wonka film. They say that the director of the whimsical and acclaimed Paddington movies has set his sights on another British literary title to adapt. King is in final negotiations to direct Willy Wonka, a reimagining of Roald Dahl's classic children's book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is being developed by the aforementioned Warner Bros. This is very exciting, Stephen, especially him reuniting with David Heyman.
Yeah, I mean, I think after the success of Paddington and more so the sequel, John, just at the tail of last year, it makes sense bringing in someone like Paul King with that calibre who can reinvigorate a book or, in this case, a series with Paddington. The original Willy Wonka film didn't get the approval of Roald Dahl, as we know. The 1971 version with Gene Wilder. It's funny because it's still one of my favourite musicals after all this time. I certainly didn't like the Tim Burton one, the one with Johnny Depp. There's something really weird and strange about it. And I know Willy Wonka, the character himself is supposed to be eccentric and odd, but there was just another level of creepiness with that recent release. To be honest with you, John, I'm actually going the other way in this one. I don't think there's any need for another Willy Wonka film, unless they're maybe going on a different sort of adventure, if you like, whether that be the Great Glass Elevator, I don't know, or just another original story. I would probably more likely enjoy something like that. I just felt that the 1971 version was lightning in a bottle when you got somebody like Gene Wilder and the actors around him like Roy Kinnear, etc. The music was a big part of it as well. I don't think, when you look at Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, they've worked so well on all these other films over the last 20 odd years, and this film didn't work, and the reason it didn't work is because it couldn't match the original, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Stephen. I do hope that they go on a more original route. They can't rework another version or reboot another version of this. As you say, the 1971 version was absolute gold. It's the classic film for me. One of my favourite Gene Wilder films. I think I mentioned that when we done a profile a few months back. And Johnny Depp, there's something about that character, I don't know what it was. The visuals, he looked porcelain. It was odd, the hair, everything, it wasn't right. And the reason it didn't work was because they tried to reboot the film. Now, I have read in one article that they are potentially looking to do a prequel of the original 1971 version, where it's also not going to be adapted from a Roald Dahl. Well, because he didn't do a prequel. We had Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, then they had the Elevator of Glass or whatever it's called. I never read it. So that would be an interesting route if they are to go down that. That would be the only way I would want to see this film happening, is if it's going to be an original story, not rebooting or trying to remake the 71 version, because you can't do it. Utterly iconic performance from Gene Wilder, and it can't be topped. I'm sorry, it just can't. One of the important things with this film going forward is going to be who they cast as Willy Wonka. Obviously, he's such a prominent character, so much so that they actually changed the name in certain countries, I believe, to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I do recall reading a few months back, in fact last year, that Ryan Gosling was interested in putting his name into the hat for the role. I believe Warner Brothers were putting out a casting call for a male actor between the ages of 29 and 35. And as I said, Gosling expressed an interest in portraying the infamous chocolate factory owner. He's slightly older than that, but I don't think he'd have any issues pulling off that age. And I can't really imagine Warner Brothers coming up to Ryan Gosling and saying, sorry, you're clearly too old, no thanks. Which does remind me, Stephen, of that infamous Harry Enfield sketch, you are clearly underage. So it's all very interesting. It really depends on how they cast it. I do like the fact that Paul King is potentially coming on board and working again with David Heyman, because they produced absolute magic in the two Paddington films. I think I gushed endlessly about both those films. I loved them. They had that ability to really connect with adults and kids. They were quirky, intelligent, funny, but more importantly, they did manage to introduce freshness and enjoyable stories, whilst being fairly faithful adaptations to the original Michael Bond stuff. So it's all very interesting. I even like the writer they're talking about getting on board as well. Maybe he's already on board, I don't know, Stephen.
Well, I think if you're going to get anyone, John, King is the man to do it. He's obviously got this recipe for success with these reboots, if you like.
Yeah.
Just to give you, an example, I showed my 5-year-old daughter last year the Gene Wilder, Mel Stewart, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and she absolutely loves this film. She loves the music in it. She can, sing most of the songs that are in it. I tried to get her to watch I think the Tim Burton one came on Sky or something like that about 4 or 5 months ago, and I tried to show her this version of it, and she just looked at it and went, turn that off, there's just something not right about this film, and that was from a 5-year-old's eyes. Listen, if they go down the route of bringing somebody like Gosling in, I can see it working. He's hot property at the moment. You've seen him in the recent reboot of Blade Runner, and before that La La Land. So he's got musical experience as well, and he can certainly sing. So I can see that working. But as long as they move off in a different direction from the original story, I think it could work.
Yeah, well, in that article I read about them going down the potential prequel route, they did say something about them maybe focusing on the origins of and how he saved the Oompa Loompas, and obviously brought them in as workers in the factory. Very interesting. Apparently, as I says, I've not read the books. I don't know the backstory at all. I don't really know anything out with the film I've seen. But he apparently went to the land that they came from and saved them, brought them in. And I'd love to see how he built this magical factory, because it's got so many layers. It's almost like a Doctor Who TARDIS in a way. It's just so many things going on. You get down into these tunnels and all the rest of it. It's just so much inner workings and stuff. Very interesting. As I touched upon about the writer, I believe Simon Rich has been brought on to write this. Not going to lie, I didn't know anything about this guy. Never heard of him prior to this announcement. All I know is he's an author who's produced quite a few books now, and he's been mainly involved in shorts for Saturday Night Live and TV shows that are firmly in the comedy genre. So that's maybe a good indication of the tone, at least, and direction they're looking to go down with this one. Maybe light-hearted comedy, and also that would tie in with Paul King getting brought on board. But I always did enjoy, with the original Willy Wonka film, that the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory film, that there was a bit of a sinister thing going on there. Yeah. He was eccentric, and there was you weren't really sure of his intentions until the end of the film, really, when he was seeing all these different kids dropping like flies. You weren't sure whether he was some megalomaniac murdering them or something like that. So I'd like to see them try and capture that in this film if they go down that route. Keep it light-hearted, but have a little bit of a sinister undertone in there as well. But as I say, Stephen, big fan of the original. Hated that Johnny Depp Tim Burton one. Hope that they can nail the casting in this and maybe produce something special.
I think Gene Wilder made the character likeable though, John. I think that's the difference. Yeah. Johnny Depp has been, a fantastic actor for the past 30 years. He rarely makes a foot wrong in any film that he puts out. For some reason it didn't work. This film, it's speculation at the moment. I've tried to look on places like IMDb, and there's not much there saying, what this project is. I know there's something kicking about on IMDb called Willy Wonka and the Dream Factory. Whether or not that's related, I don't know. But it's very early days, and as I said, they've got King on board. If they can get someone like Ryan Gosling coming in to play the character of Willy Wonka, and perhaps maybe we'll see Wonka saving the Oompa Loompas, maybe that will be part of the film. That would be interesting to see, but take it off in a different direction. But yeah, just moving on from that, John, another little golden nugget that dropped last week was the news that Michael Fassbender is to star in David Sandberg's Kung Fury from the It producers. We don't have a release date yet, as this movie has just been announced, and this is Michael Fassbender and David Sandberg are set to star in an action comedy, Kung Fury, which Sandberg will direct and produce under his Laser Unicorns banner. David Hasselhoff is also joining the cast following his role in Sandberg's original short film of the same name, which ran in Cannes Directors Fortnight in 2015 and had over 40 million views worldwide. And you were one of them.
I was one of them, Stephen, and I'd done a written review about a year ago, and I'd done an audio review recently, and I loved this film. I actually mentioned in my audio review that I was going to keep a very close eye on this feature film remake or sequel. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, we started getting news dripping out. Very, very excited for this. Absolutely loved the short film. It was crazy, absolutely crazy, action-packed, so slick for the budget he had. Worked absolute wonders. I believe he put up a Kickstarter appeal, and it was one of the most record-breaking reactions they got on Kickstarter. Managed to fund it. What he'd done with it was absolute magic, and obviously David Hasselhoff appeared in the short film, the half-an-hour short film, which I watched on YouTube. Don't know if it's anywhere else now, but as you say, it's had 40 million views. It's incredible. And this news is very interesting. It did take me by surprise when I seen that Michael Fassbender was joining the cast for this film. I half expected it from Arnie, and I definitely expected it from the Hoff, both of whom's careers you could argue are probably on a downward slope at this point, but not Fassbender. This is a guy that's been nominated for 2 Academy Awards. And listen, that's not me slagging the film off, because as I say, I adored the short film. I thought it was absolute gold. I'm just genuinely surprised that they've managed to attract a guy of that calibre to come on board with this film, because it's wacky and it's not like anything I've ever seen before. It's got a complete cult following. I'm not entirely sure what role it is Fassbender's going to be playing in this one. I've not seen a huge amount about it out with what's been breaking this week. All I know is he's going to be starring alongside David Sandberg, who will be returning as the titular lead, Kung Fury himself. Arnie, I think, is going to be playing an American president, which is funny because he always maintained that he was going to return to politics. Bet he didn't foresee it was going to be in a film like this. And it's just crazy to see an actual action hero from the 80s popping up in the feature release, because it was also a complete homage to that B-movie action of the 1980s. So, very exciting.
I mean, the film's still doing the rounds on YouTube, which is quite surprising, John. I've not got around to seeing this. You know, I remember reading your movie review last year, and obviously I've listened to the audio review as well recently, and it's certainly a film, you know, that I should have got around to by now. Yeah. Can I ask you, though, John, you know, that film was, what's it, 30 minutes long or something like that?
Exactly.
Do you think that there's enough in there to do a feature film on this?
Well, from what I hear, Stephen, they're actually it's going to be a sequel. So, but it's strange because I read the plot summary, which is very like that Deadpool joking plot summary, but this one is actually the real thing. This isn't a piss take. I'll go through the plot summary right now. In actual fact, it says it's 1985, the best year ever. Miami is kept safe under the watchful eye of Kung Fury, the greatest damn cop of all time. Kung Fury's Thunder Cops are the ultimate police force assembled from across history to defeat the villainous Kung Fuhrer Adolf Hitler. After the tragic death of a Thunder Cop causes the group to disband, a mysterious villain emerges from the shadows to aid in the Fuhrer's quest to attain the ultimate weapon. Kung Fury must travel space and time itself to save his friends, defend the prestigious Miami Kung Fu Academy, and defeat evil once and for all. I say it's a sequel, but that sounds almost word for word like the short film on YouTube, where his partner gets killed in front of him, and then he has to go through space and time to hunt down the evil Kung Fuhrer and kill him back in a sort of a weird Back to the Future alternate reality in 1940s. So I don't know if they have got enough, if they're going to go down a different route and maybe flesh out a little bit better, Lord knows. But if it is a scene for scene remake with just higher visuals and higher quality, then I don't know if they have got enough, because that's certainly, it seemed like they just nailed the running time in that film. It just worked, everything was condensed and slick and it just worked. So I'm not sure how it would work in a feature length film. I don't know how long the film's even going to be. It might only be an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes, so Lord knows, Stephen.
I mean, just looking at the trivia notes on IMDb, and there's actually only one in there at the moment, and that is that the story will focus on Kung Fury's universe, with no real connection to the short movie other than the lead character.
There you go.
And just going back to, you know, Fassbender being involved in this project, as you know, just off the back of last year, he was in Alien Covenant and The Disappointing Snowman. Very let down with that film. He has got an upcoming X-Men film, Dark Phoenix, coming up, where he will, you know, resume the role of Magneto. So we'll see how that plays out. I think this film will be, I think Kung Fury will be the film after the X-Men film's released. It's one of the ones I think, you know, I think I'll go and watch the original 30-minute film and make up my mind from there whether or not I think I would devote any more time on this project. But it's certainly interesting, and I think if it's done properly, it could work.
Yeah, I mean, It's very niche, Stephen, I'm not going to lie. It is very niche. If you like the 80s action genre type stuff, all the cheesy one-liners and cars flying through the air and stuff like that, then you will enjoy this because it's a pure homage to it. The short film itself, very low budget, as I said. They used green screen. It looked like they used it in his garage, Sandberg's garage. I think he sold furniture off to try and fund this film as well. But it was almost like a side-scrolling Street Fighter type fighting sort of a style they had going on, and it just worked beautifully. The characters, Adolf Hitler's soldiers were kind of in the background doing that weird like movement, back and forward look thing that you've seen in those classic 2D fighting games. So it was very well worked for the budget. I don't know how that'll play out going into a more expensive feature film, whether they're going to get proper fighting things and it's all going to be 3D if you like. I don't know, it's very interesting. I did say I would be keeping an eye on it, and I certainly am going to keep my eye on this one as more news breaks, because I absolutely loved it, and I do urge you to go and watch the short film. Obviously you'll then know one way or the other whether you're going to be interested in this one or not, but I just wonder whether Fassbender's going to play this mysterious villain that pops out, where he's going to be part of Kung Fury's Thundercops. Lord knows. I wonder who's going to be playing Adolf Hitler in this as well, because I did love the guy that played him in the short film. He was wacky. Almost reminded me of the producers at Springtime for Hitler in Germany. That guy, it was just crazy, but I don't think they'll get him back in. So it's all very interesting seeing the casting news getting revealed, little snippets about what they're going to do with the story, and we'll see what happens.
It'll certainly be interesting 20 years time, John, when perhaps we might see a disaster artist version of the making of the original Kung Fury. Who knows? But it's certainly food for thought. But listen, as I said, there's no release date on this yet. I don't see this film being released this year. Possibly next year. As I said, I think it will be after the X-Men Dark Phoenix film with Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, well, I think they actually says, just nipping in there, I think they says they're looking to start filming this summer, so that probably point to it being a mid to late release next year at the earliest, I would have thought. But just moving on, Stephen, Ron Howard announced last week via Twitter, which he seems to do all the time these days, not criticising him. I enjoy what he's doing on Twitter, all the little tidbits he's releasing. But I digress. He's announced on Twitter that Jon Favreau is going to be voicing one of the aliens in Solo, a Star Wars story. I think he's since released on Twitter which alien that is. It's the little multi-limbed guy from the trailer. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it was a little alien that a lot of people thought was Maz Kanata from the trailer because it was so quick. Yeah, I mean, when we were collecting notes for this week's show, the news had just broke that Jon Favreau was voicing an alien in the new Solo film, and as you said, Favreau himself, I think it was, that tweeted out on Twitter what the character was going to be. Favreau, he's a big Star Wars fan, and he's an integral part of the Disney machine through the MCUs, John.
Yeah.
I don't think that the character will have a big role in this. I think it's just going to be one of the ones very similar to the role that Simon Pegg played in The Force Awakens. The filmmaker and actor voiced the character in several seasons of the animated series The Clone Wars as well, so he's got history there. I'm going to ask you a question here, John. Do you think this is this Lucasfilm paving the way for possibly a Favreau directed Star Wars film in the near future?
I think it's certainly a possibility, Stephen, because obviously he is directing the 2019 Lion King reboot, which of course stars Donald Glover as well, who's appearing as Lando Calrissian in this one. So I mean, he is a go-to guy for the James Earl Jones as well, of course, the legendary James Earl Jones. So he's been a go-to guy for many years for Disney. He starred in several MCU films, Iron Man 2 he directed, and he's obviously worked in the Jungle Book as well. So I think he's got vast experience with that company, and I can definitely see them maybe leaning on him in the future to maybe do a standalone film. I don't know which one it would be, but I certainly think it's a possibility, yes, because he's proved he's worth in him. He's produced and directed many a film, and many a successful film for them, so yeah, I do.
I mean, back in 2013-14, he was one of the ones that were listed to direct The Force Awakens, which eventually went to J.J. Abrams. I remember the talk about the time. He was certainly one of the top 5 directors that would possibly direct this new Star Wars film, Episode 7 at the time. and I've got to say I would be very satisfied with that. You know, his directorial career to date, it's not really a lot from what I recall. He did Iron Man 2, as I recall.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
You know, and there was several other projects as well that I can't think of off the top of my head, but he's certainly he's of the calibre of the J.J. Abrams and the Colin Trevorrows, etc. You know, and I think it will be in the near future. I'd also go as far as saying possibly the Obi-Wan film that might come out. I think he could be linked to that.
That'd be very interesting, Steve. And obviously, looking at his filmography as a director, he directed Zathura, a space adventure, which is that bizarre Jumanji, sort of a sequel. So that's interesting because I mind we were speaking about that and you couldn't remember the name and they look at that. So we're not going to discuss that. That thing was a flop, I think. I don't think that did very well. But certainly that would be very interesting, Stephen. I can't wait till they announce this Obi-Wan film. This needs to be announced. Hugh McGregor's growing a bloody beard out. The guy's doing fitness regimes. He's getting in shape. Get him in. Get this thing directed. Lion King's already filming at the moment. Also with all the different other films going on, there's no way and no excuse they can't get this thing into action in the next year or so. Get it announced. I would love Jon Favreau directing an Obi-Wan film. I'd love anybody directing an Obi-Wan film, to be honest with you. Just get it out.
Yeah, you know, especially with Ewan McGregor, you know, vocally putting himself about, that he's very interested in doing it. Just touching on what I was saying previously, he actually directed the first Iron Man film as well. I actually forgot about that, and also the Jungle Book, and I think he's doing the sequel to that as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's doing the Lion King as well. He's that's coming out.
I mean, he's certainly keeping himself busy. You know, I know that he did that terrible film around about 2010, 11. I can't remember the Daniel Craig one.
Cowboys and Aliens.
Cowboys and Aliens, yeah, which was a dreadful film. I don't think that was just down to Jon Favreau's direction. I just think the film itself shouldn't have been made. But no, I mean, he's such an integral part of you know, the MCU, that it makes sense to get someone to come in who can handle a big franchise. He certainly wouldn't be fazed by it, and as I said, the most important thing of all is he's a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah. And just one other little thing I want to discuss as a side issue to this, also with the announcement of him voicing this alien character, they revealed a little thing. I don't know if this was revealed prior to this, just a little snippet about what they're doing with the plot, that Tobias Beckett, played by Woody Harrelson, is actually putting together a team and they're going on and doing a heist. I don't know if it was revealed that it was a heist. He's going to be joining Han, Chewbacca, Kira, who's one of Han's old flames from Corellia, Val, which I believe is the lady with the afro, Lando, and then the self-built droid and this other character that Favreau's playing. So that's very interesting. I do wonder whether this is going to be the thing that they're going to use to introduce the 12 parsec Kessel Run. I know in the old canon, if you'd like, that it was originally or traditionally a spice smuggling route to avoid Imperials, but I do maybe wonder whether this mission's going to take them to Kessel to try and get someone or do something, and then they're going to see the Kessel Run and they escape from this. I'm struggling to think of a way of how they could really fit in organically in any other part of the story, so I do think this could be when we see the Kessel Run from this heist. Don't know where I'm going with this, Stephen. Doesn't play into anything about the Jon Favreau story at all, apart from the fact that the character that he's voicing is part of this gang that's committing this heist. I don't know, but it's very interesting. And just leading into this, something that might confirm this is a new Lego Falcon set, which I believe is called the Kessel Run, the Millennium Falcon, and they say in the description, outsmart the villainous overseers and escape the Kessel mines aboard the amazing Millennium Falcon, pull off manoeuvres. I digress, it goes on blah blah blah, but this seems to confirm that this is also going to showcase the Kessel Run, and I think this is what's going to happen in the middle of this heist.
I think the character Favreau's going to be playing, I think, might be like the gunner within the team, if you like, similar to Finn's sort of role in the escape with Poe Dameron from the First Order's ship. Yeah, I mean, you know, while Favreau has yet to, you know, land himself a Star Wars directing gig, John, his continued involvement with various forms of the franchise has no doubt kept him happy anyway, you know, but there's still a good chance that he might direct a Star Wars film one day, and I do hope it is the Obi-Wan Kenobi standalone film, which is yet to be announced officially. So we'll see. We'll just keep our eyes peeled for this one. But at the moment, I'm just happy that he's involved in a Star Wars project. It's very little as it is at the moment. I do think it is going to pave the way for something further down the line in the near future.
Yes, and just moving on now, Stephen, the next subject we're going to be touching upon is the latest trailer. I believe it's the third trailer for Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One. I've seen all 3 of these trailers now, and I have to say, extremely excited for this film. I think they've got progressively better, each one. It just looks utterly epic. As I said, I haven't read the novel which spawned this yet by Ernest Cline. It's probably going to get kindled at some point because I do need to watch this prior to the film coming out. I do like the context it adds to films, but very excited about this trailer. Stephen, what's your thoughts on it?
I must say I preferred the original trailer that came out I think 2 or 3 months ago, John.
There you go.
You know the one with the Van Halen's jump in it?
Yeah.
And it had, I think it was that one that had those little notes from Back to the Future at the very end of the trailer as well, which was a great callback to that franchise. This feels to me, this latest trailer is like a reminder trailer. It's just to let everybody know that it's coming out next month. And it didn't really show anything new as far as I could remember. Nevertheless, the film looks stunning, and I think Spielberg may be onto a winner with this one, John.
Yeah.
It certainly has that Matrix concept to it, with Inception visuals, if you like.
Yeah.
This film is being released worldwide, I think, at the end of March, so it makes sense to just drop a final trailer in there, just to remind everyone this film's coming out.
Yeah, and certainly because there's going to be a whole host of people like me who haven't read the novel, probably aren't aware of how this story goes, what it's about. And this again, I think they've slowly fleshed out the plot over the last 2 trailers alone, giving us an idea of what's going on in it. And I have to say, it excites me. What I've seen about the story also follows Wade Watts, I think, who's the titular character, through a sort of a futuristic dystopian world. I think it disappears into this virtual reality oasis, and then the billionaire owner of this dies, sets out a challenge, and this puts him head to head with an authoritarian government and officials. I think Ben Mendelsohn's character is one of these, and also other competitors looking to try and get this prize. And it's very, very exciting, the world that it dives into, all these different 80s pop culture and even more modern pop culture, little Easter eggs in there. In that last trailer alone, I think there was 15 Easter eggs in there. You've got things from Back to the Future, as you say, a DeLorean, the 66 Batmobile, King Kong, Halo, Overwatch, the Joker, Harley Quinn's in there. You've got Chucky in there, Gundam, which I believe is a sort of a weird cartoon thing from Japan. There's just so much things going on in there, little pop culture Easter eggs, which is so cool. I know that was something that kind of divided fans of the book. Some didn't like the way it surrounded itself and all these pop culture things. Others just enjoyed it and seen past it and liked the story for what it was. But trailer looks amazing, man. I have to say, I really like the look of it. I love the visuals. The action looks incredible. Even the real world shots with those towering like caravan type things, trailer things, falling over. That looks so cool. Ben Mendelsohn looks amazing as a villain. This guy is just able to play just a whole host of different villains. I think he's going to play a more sleazy, clean cut type guy in this, where he's like a butter wouldn't melt type government style official, but in the background he's walking away creating havoc, which we know he's more than capable of doing. He's got that well in his locker. So very excited. Love Mendelsohn anyway. I love all the villainous characters he's portraying in recent years, and also in the future I think he's playing the Sheriff of Nottingham as well. So it's an exciting one. Spielberg's involved, and it looks like a great cast as well, so I'm well up for this.
Yeah, Zach Penn and Ernest Cline are doing the screenplay for this, John. Ernest Cline wrote the original novel, which, again, I've not read it either, but what I have heard is that, ironically, the film being directed by Steven Spielberg is actually mentioned in the original novel of the film, which is based on. But apparently Spielberg stated that he would be removing all references to that in the movie, which is probably the sensible thing to do. Just going back to the mention of all the pop cultural things there, John. This is one of the things that I was excited to see when 2015's Pixels came out, the Adam Sandler film. I've not been a fan of Sandler for a long time now, but I certainly thought that this film would work, with the whole Pac-Man thing, etc., and all the Donkey Kong and all that kind of thing going on, and it certainly didn't work. These things that you're mentioning in this film just seem to be thrown in as little Easter eggs more than anything. They're not really part of the key plot, if you like. So it'll certainly work. It'll be a nice little sort of tip of the hat, if you like, to franchises like Back to the Future, etc. There was also a rumour circulating, I think, a couple of years ago, that Steven Spielberg was courting Gene Wilder to play the Oasis creator James Halliday. Sadly, Gene Wilder passed away the following year, and I'm just wondering if, I don't know if you noticed I don't know if it was the first trailer that came out, John, or if it was the second trailer, where there was that song World of Pure Imagination. Yeah. And I'm just wondering if that was a deliberate part on Spielberg to drop that in there in memory of Gene Wilder.
I think it definitely was. It definitely has to have been. Yeah. It was so well worked. I loved that version of it as well. I love the music in the trailers in general. I just loved all those little things. So you touched upon it with the Back to the Future, the little ding ding ding. I can't even do it. Yep. And even in this latest trailer, we get the little Nintendo sound thing. I think they even mentioned Mario Kart at one point. So it's just brilliant little things are flinging in there, just subtle. And I agree with you, all these Easter egg things are not going to be central to the story, I don't think. It's just in this Oasis world, well, apparently you can be whatever you want to be, so they're just imagining themselves as all these different things, and it's virtually manifesting itself in the world. So I agree with you, it's not going to be central to the story. I do believe Alan Silvestri is scoring it, so that would tie in with all those little Back to the Future things and stuff like that. I have seen some criticism from certain places, certain websites, about the whole heavy-handed VR headset push thing that they're doing, where it's like basically telling you, hammering you over the head, go out and buy a VR headset. I don't think I quite agree with that. I don't see any product placement. I know Oculus, one of the main ones, is kind of tying in with their own game with this, so don't agree with it. But I did see something funny, which I believe I did show to you, Stephen, where one of the scenes in this trailer where some of the people are running through the streets with the VR headsets on, they took the music off and just showed them running in a GIF, and I'm telling you, it just didn't work. I was looking at it and I'm like, what the hell is going on there? So that just shows you the power of music and what it does, and the effect it had in this trailer, because it looked epic in the trailer, looked utterly crap without the music. But yeah, I don't know what else to say, Stephen. It looks very, very exciting indeed. Loving the cast. I mean, you've even got Simon Pegg in there. I didn't realise he was in there. T.J. Miller, Olivia Cooke, Mark Rylance. It's ridiculous, the cast. Ralph Ineson as well. He's a great actor. So I can't see this not being a monstrous release. I certainly think it will do much better than the Post, the latest Spielberg release. I think that was kind of a side thing for him anyway. He just fit that in. He's seen the opportunity to do it. This is really his passion product for the last few years, so I absolutely see this turn it up.
Well, that's one of the reasons that John Williams isn't doing the score for this film, because of the scheduling conflicts that he had on the Post. Hence why Alan Silvestri has come in to do the score in this film. I'm looking forward to it on that part. I've been a big fan of Alan Silvestri for the best part of 30 years now. His Back to the Future score is so iconic. His score in Forrest Gump as well is so memorable. So I'm happy, if someone's going to step in and take control of the score and it's not John Williams, I'm very happy that it's Alan Silvestri.
Yeah, and just one final thing I'm going to touch on is just I loved the moment with the Iron Giant as well in the trailer. Just the way that was implemented. I loved it. I don't know how much of an impact that's going to have, but really, really cool. It's just another little Easter egg I thought I'd fling in there. But completely agree with everything you've said, Stephen, about the scoring. Two brilliant, epic composers. I've seen some people saying, why could they have not swapped it about and had John Williams in doing this? Doesn't really matter for me. Silvestri's a fantastic composer as well, so really excited for it. Don't really know what more to say. I know it's coming out this year. I don't know exactly what month. I think you'll tell me in a minute, Stephen, but very exciting.
Yeah, 29th of March it is, John. We're not that far away from it now. It's certainly one that I'll go and see in the cinema, because I think it is one of these films that you must go and see in the cinema to have that full effect. Just moving on now, this is the part of the show that we just like to call Box Office Chat, where we discuss the top box office in the UK for weekend of February 9th, 11th, 2018.
Yes, and for that weekend, 50 Shades Freed is sitting at number 1. It's earned 6.6 million for the weekend, 7.5 million total gross. It's been out 1 week and it's shown in 581 theatres. That's about all I'm going to say for this one, Stephen. I panned the last one when we done our end of year top grossing films chat. Can't go this franchise, and I'm delighted at the timing that Black Panther came out on Monday and it's already topped it, because I know when we do our box office the next week, Black Panther is going to be sitting at number 1 and smashing it up, so it'll not be number 1 for long, so that's good.
Yeah, without a doubt, Black Panther's going to be the big talking point for us next week when we do our box office chat, John. I'm not surprised that 50 Shades Freed has come in at number 1 anyway. I think this is the third and final film of the franchise anyway.
There we go, I didn't know that.
So I think it's going to get the audience that I had for the previous 2 instalments anyway. It's got a big fan base, you know, amongst the females, certainly. And you know, listen, I didn't expect it not to be there, to be honest with you, when I knew it was getting released. Just moving on to number 2, it's been in there for 7 weeks now, John.
Yes.
The Greatest Showman.
Yes, and I finally seen this film, Stephen. It's grossed 1.8 million for that weekend, for a total gross of 25.3 million. It's been out 7 weeks, showing 540 theatres. As I says, finally made the decision to watch this one, and I have to say I did enjoy it. It was a solid musical. Music was very cool. I liked the way it was kind of a modern, but at the same time it seemed to blend in very nicely with the period setting. Thought the cast were perfect in the main. Zac Efron was superb alongside Hugh Jackman. Love Zendaya, just perfectly casted. I thought the plot was okay. That was probably the weakest part of the film. It was okay without being outstanding or blowing me away or anything like that, but it was a musical. The music worked, the choreography and the dancing things worked, and the actors were in the main brilliant, and I can see now why it's grossed what it has.
Yeah, it's just typical that it took 6 weeks for the film to reach number 1, and it's knocked off the top spot. But listen, this film's done really well. I mentioned this last week, that I was very surprised that the film lasted as long as it did in the top 10. But that says a lot about the film, says a lot about the quality of the music in the film. I said last week that I think the soundtrack has helped it as well maintain its top spot in the box office. And just moving on to number 3, it's the animated film Coco.
Yes, that has grossed 1.2 million for that weekend, and it's sitting at a total gross of 11.7. It's been out 4 weeks, still showing in a massive 634 theatres. It's doing okay without really turning up. When you look at 50 Shades Freed, what it's earned in 1 week, and compare it to this is an infinitely better film, and it's barely earned more in 4 weeks, which is a joke. I did predict it wouldn't get anywhere near Paddington 2, and to be frank, it hasn't. I don't think that's a slight on the film, I think that's just down to releasing schedules. Paddington was able to release in the Christmas period. This one had to wait till after New Year, so I don't think it's a slight on the film. Very good film.
Certainly took a long time to come out over here, you know, when we saw the reviews that were coming out over YouTube over the Christmas period, John, in the US. You know, from personal experience, you'll know this yourself because you did the audio review on this. We seem to be getting a lot of good feedback from the Mexican community. They seem to be very proud of this film and how it's, you know, projecting the culture in Mexico. You know, we've had a few discussions with some of the natives who have said that, you know, that they're very proud of the story. It's very true to their culture, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Remember Me's the standout, and that was a brilliant little song, and I certainly think it will push This Is Me from The Greatest Showman all the way, both great songs. And I agree with the culture thing. It's shown Mexico in a positive light in the midst of the whole Trump presidency, where he's famously xenophobic and going after him and talking about building walls. So peace and love, as Ringo says, you know, always trumps negativity. Like the pun there, was unintentional.
And just moving on to number 4, another animated film, John, which has grossed 1.1 million this weekend, 5.3 over the last 3 weeks, is Early Man.
Yes, it's doing okay, Stephen. It's also not on the same level as a Coco release. It's not as big a studio. It's doing okay. Yeah, I mean, I've not got to see it yet. I'm sure I will get round to it at some point. Very busy though for films. There's a lot of competition coming out. But yeah, it's doing okay.
Yeah, and just coming in midway in the box office chat, at number 5, it's grossed just under $1 million for this weekend. It's Darkest Hour.
Yes, sitting at a 20.8 total gross. I think we've spoken endlessly about this film, haven't we, Stephen? It's a success. Gary Oldman should win an Oscar for this one. Brilliant period piece. Fantastic film. I don't know if I have much more to say about it, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll be very surprised if he doesn't win an Oscar for his performance as Winston Churchill, John. Absolutely amazing performance. Just moving on to number 6, it's Maze Runner: The Death Cure. It's been in the top 10 for the last 3 weeks now, John.
Yes, and it's grossed 728,000 for the weekend for a 5.3 million gross. It's only shown in 494 theatres. It's done fine. It has dropped quite a bit now. I think it's dropped about 44-45%. I don't know the exact figure, which after 3 weeks is actually quite quick for that drop. But yeah, I mean, I've not seen it. I'm not planning on seeing it, but it's doing okay.
Yeah, I think this is the third film in the franchise,
yeah. And
listen, that's doing really well to have grossed 5.3 million over 3 weeks. Very impressive. Saw this trailer in the cinema. I think it's one of the films that you better go and see in the cinema because it's certainly got the visuals to back it up. But just moving on to number 7 in the top 10, it's Den of Thieves.
Yes, it's grossed 600,000 for that weekend, taking its total gross to 2.3 million. It's been out 2 weeks. It's only shown in 396 theatres. It's already dropped 46% as well in its second week. It is what it is. It's a popcorn action flick, I believe, starring Gerard Butler. I think it's in a similar vein to the whole London's Falling sort of a thing, which I did watch and was quite good. It is what it is.
Yeah, 2.3 million over 2 weeks is not bad at all, is it? Just coming in at number 8 this week, it's 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yes, it's grossed £575,000 and its total gross is now 10.2 million, shown in 300 theatres. Much the same as The Darkest Hour, really. I've seen this film 3 times. It's great, it's successful. It should win some Oscars, and I think we've spoke about it endlessly, Stephen.
Yep, till we're blue in the face.
Yes.
It's one of my favourite films of 2017. It was in my top 5. It's a film that I will go back to time and time again as the year goes on. 5 weeks at the top 10. It's not surprising it's earned what it has, 10.3 million. And just moving on to number 9, seems like it's been in the top 10 for an eternity now, John. It's Jumanji's Welcome to the Jungle.
Yes, it's grossed 565,000, taking its total gross to a very impressive 35.3 million. Still shown in 412 theatres. And I agree with you. I've wrote in my notes here, Stephen, that it's been out for 8 weeks. It feels like 8 years I've been talking about this. It feels like 8 years ago I went to see it. I feel like Alan Parrish, that I've been sucked into this game, came out and it's still out in the cinema. I just don't know what else to say, Stephen. It's a good film. Like Den of Thieves. Action, popcorn, flick.
Yep, 8 weeks. I certainly wouldn't have predicted that to be in the top 10 for 8 weeks. Very impressive.
I don't think Sonny even predicted that, Stephen.
No, I mean, it's certainly took a lot of people by surprise. But just coming in at number 10 is The Post. This is the Meryl Streep, Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg film. It's been in the top 10 now for 4 weeks. It's certainly not got the legs to last much longer in the top 10, John.
No, I would anticipate that will be dropping out by next week when Black Panther comes in. It may not though, Lord knows. It may have a little spike and we might get Jumanji falling out, Lord knows. But yeah, it's grossed 471,000 for the weekend, taking its total gross to 8.3 million, shown in 367 theatres. I think I'm pretty clear now that I'm not going to be going to see this one in the cinema. I think there's too many other films out there that are interesting me at this stage. But Lord knows, I did say that about The Greatest Showman as well, Stephen, and I've seen that, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the top 10 for this week, there's not been much shift, and you try your best not to repeat yourself, from week to week. All I can say about The Post is it's an enjoyable film to a point. The only issue I had was the pacing issue and the sort of dumbed down dramatisation of it as well. For a film it's a biography, drama, history, whatever you want to call it, the drama in it isn't really in it till the last 30 minutes. for a film that's running time is just under 2 hours, it's very slow paced. Unless you're very much interested in American history, etc., and propaganda through the media, and the politics, it's certainly not going to interest you enough to hang about for an hour and a half before you get to the sort of climax of the film. Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, you can't fault them in this film. Their performances are great for what you expect from both actors. Spielberg's direction, it's not his greatest work, I've got to say, and I can't see this being in the top 10 next week, John.
Yeah, I do wonder how much of that is down to him kind of shuffling this in at the last minute, squeezing it in, and I think he'd done it in less than a year. He had it filmed, produced and released within 7 or 8 months, I think. So I wonder if how much of that's down to that.
Well, that's the thing. It's when you look at the stuff that is still to come out by Spielberg, you've got the West Side Story, the kidnapping of Edgardo Mortara, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac's in that.
You've got Ready Player One, which we've just talked about, and obviously what we're talking about last week, this untitled Indiana Jones project, Indy 5. Yeah. So you're talking, a handful of films there that he's in pre-production with, or just announced. So I can see why the post did suffer a little. But listen, it's been in the top 10. I don't think it'll be in the top 10 next week.
Yes, and that concludes this week's box office chat. We'd just like to thank everyone for listening once again, and we'll be back next week for episode 20. Remember guys, if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, then do subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes and Google Play, whilst also giving us a little follow on Facebook at Movie Burner Entertainment and on Twitter at Movie Burners. You can also catch up with all the latest reviews we're putting out on the Movie Burner blog at movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.